America's Independence, Part 2, Chapter 11, America at War with Itself. Once independence was declared, the colonies were united in name, but in reality, America was divided. Some colonists supported the revolution passionately. Others, called loyalists, still believed in British rule. Neighbors accused each other of treason. Families were torn apart. Entire towns split between loyalty to the king and loyalty to the new cause. The American Revolution was not just a war between America and Britain. It was also a civil war inside the colonies themselves. Many loyalists fled to Canada or Britain. Others stayed and quietly resisted the revolution. Some even formed loyalist militias to fight on the side of the British. This internal division made the war even harder for George Washington. He was not only fighting the greatest military empire on earth, he was also fighting the doubts and fears within his own people. His army struggled with desertion, shortages, and lack of pay. At times, Washington didn't know if the revolution would survive the next month, and yet he kept moving forward. Chapter 12, Washington's Winter of Desperation. In December 1776, the Continental Army was exhausted. Washington's men were hungry, freezing, and barefoot. Supplies were scarce. Disease spread through the camps. Soldiers deserted by the hundreds. The revolution seemed doomed. Britain was confident the war would end soon. They believed Washington's army was collapsing. They slowed their pursuit, assuming the winter cold would finish the rebels. But Washington had other plans. On Christmas night, 1776, Washington launched a daring surprise attack across the icy Delaware River. His target, Hessian forces stationed in Trenton. The crossing was dangerous, the weather brutal, the river nearly impassable, but Washington pushed forward. What followed was a stunning victory, a sudden flash of hope in the darkest hour. The success at Trenton revived American morale. For the first time, people began to believe that independence might actually be possible. Washington followed with another victory at Princeton. These two battles did not win the war, but they saved the revolution. Chapter 13. The struggle for global support. America knew it could not win the war alone. It needed allies. It needed weapons, ships, and money. Europe watched the war with interest, but no nation would commit unless America proved it could stand. Benjamin Franklin was sent to France as a diplomat. His mission: secure French support. Franklin captivated the French court with his wit, simplicity, and charm. He represented a new world, a world of freedom, equality, and self-rule. His presence alone became a symbol of the American cause. But France hesitated. They had lost land to Britain in the 7 Years' War. They saw America as a chance to weaken Britain, but they would not invest in a losing rebellion. The turning point came with America's victory at Saratoga in 1777. This victory proved that the Continental Army could defeat British forces in open battle. It convinced France that the revolution had a real chance. In 1778, France signed a formal alliance with the United States. It was a game changer. French ships and soldiers would help America challenge Britain's naval supremacy. Soon, Spain and the Netherlands also began supporting America indirectly. The revolution had become an international conflict. Chapter 14. Life on the Home Front. While the soldiers fought on the battlefield, everyday life in the colonies changed dramatically. Women, often overlooked in traditional histories, became the backbone of the revolution. They managed farms, ran businesses, made clothing for soldiers, and carried messages between towns. Some worked as nurses or cooks for the army. A few even disguised themselves as men to fight. Children collected scrap metal, helped with farming, and carried water during battles. Enslaved people also played crucial roles. Some fought for the Patriots in exchange for the promise of freedom. Others joined the British, who offered liberation to enslaved people who fled their masters and served the crown. America was fighting a war for liberty while still living with slavery, one of the contradictions that would shape the nation's future. The war touched every home, every family, every corner of society. Life became more expensive. Food became scarce. Inflation skyrocketed. Soldiers were often paid in worthless paper money. Entire towns were burned by British raids or rebel reprisals. The Revolution was not a distant war, fought by armies far away. It was a struggle woven into the everyday lives of the people. Chapter 15. The Southern Campaign. In the later years of the war, Britain changed its strategy. They believed the South had more loyalists who would support the crown. So, Britain launched a major offensive in the southern colonies. They captured Savannah in 1778. They took Charleston in 1780, one of the worst American defeats of the war. General Cornwallis led brutal campaigns through the Carolinas, but the South did not fall easily. Small bands of patriot fighters used guerrilla tactics, ambushing British forces in forests and swamps. Leaders like Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, attacked and disappeared before the British could strike back. These guerrilla fighters weakened British control and inspired the local population. The Southern Campaign was destructive, chaotic, and bloody. Civilians suffered greatly, but the resistance wore down Cornwallis, pushing him north toward Virginia, where his fate would be sealed. Chapter 16. The Path to Yorktown. By 1781, both sides were exhausted. Washington wanted a decisive blow that would end the war. When he learned that Cornwallis had camped his army in Yorktown, a plan began to form. Washington marched his army south from New York, moving quietly and quickly. At the same time, a massive French fleet under Admiral de Grasse sailed to the Chesapeake Bay, blocking British ships from rescuing Cornwallis. The trap was set. French and American troops surrounded Yorktown. British forces were bombarded day and night. Trenches were dug. Cannons thundered. Escape became impossible. Cornwallis realized the truth. He was trapped. He was outnumbered. He was facing both American and French armies. On October 19, 1781, he surrendered. The world watched in disbelief. The greatest empire on earth had been defeated by a young, untested nation with the help of powerful allies. The war was not officially over, but Yorktown was the moment the British will to fight collapsed. Chapter 17. The Long Wait for Peace. After Yorktown, fighting slowed, but negotiations took time. Diplomats from America and Britain met in Paris. They argued over borders, trade, fishing rights, and the fate of loyalists. Franklin, Adams, and John Jay represented the United States. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain formally recognized the United States of America as a free and independent nation. Borders were drawn from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mississippi River. Prisoners were released. Troops withdrew. The revolution, after 8 long years, was finally over. A new nation stood on the world stage. Chapter 18. The aftermath of freedom. Independence did not bring instant unity or peace. America now had to build a government, create laws, stabilize its economy, and unite a people divided by war. There were arguments, fears, and competing visions. Some wanted strong state governments. Others wanted a powerful national government. There were debates about slavery, land, taxes, and how to balance freedom with order. The Articles of Confederation, America's first attempt at government, proved too weak. It would take several years and a constitutional convention to create a lasting structure, but that story continues later in the script. For now, the important truth is this: America had won independence, but the work of building a nation was just beginning. Subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for part 3 of this history, which I'm about to unveil.